Hi friends, it's Paul Ward and welcome to On the Road. Well, Los Angeles is not necessarily known as a wine region. There is a special spot called Cornell Wine Company, and we are blessed today to have the owner-proprietor, Matt Morris. Welcome to On the Road.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we want to thank our sponsor, Opus Escrow. So Matt, before we talk about Cornell Wine Company and your expertise, where exactly are we?
So Cornell is a neighborhood that used to be a township. It's an unincorporated part of LA County. It's kind of wedged between Agoura Hills and Malibu in the Santa Monica Mountains.
You consider yourself a wine expert, a sommelier, some would say?
The sommelier is a term that usually refers to a person that works at a restaurant that is in charge of the wine menu and selecting wines for patrons. There are different schools of certification. There's a couple that are recognized in the United States. One's WSET, one's CMS. I am CMS certified, so I'm a certified sommelier.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've been into wine for quite a bit. Yeah.
Interesting. And this place has a lot of history.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not just in wine, but in just the history of, of this little gem
Cornell
location.
goes back over 100 years. I know that I believe it got its name or official designation in 1911. It was called Cornell. There were a bunch of homesteaders out here, and they had a schoolhouse, and they named the town after Cornell University, after Ezra Cornell, because he donated all the school supplies for the local schoolhouse.
So how did the local folk even know about Cornell
I am
University?
not 100% sure. There are different stories. I've heard stuff that Ezra Cornell just was really passionate about education and spreading it throughout the country. So he would donate to different towns throughout the country. I also heard some stuff about the local homesteaders here having connections to that part of New York, to the Ithaca area.
Interesting.
There's a lot of history out here.
And this particular building and then also the building next door have their own tales.
Yeah, so there's a few buildings out here that go back quite a while. Right next door is the Old Place restaurant, which is my favorite restaurant in the world. It's been a restaurant since 1970, but the building originally was the mail room and post office and general store for the neighborhood.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
And you told us a story before that you even went there as a kid.
In 1970, a gentleman by the name of Tom Runyon converted the old post office and general store into an old Western saloon. It was really a place for him to hang out with his very cool friends. He was involved in a lot of different old Hollywood pictures back then. You'd see a lot of different cool celebrities come by. It wasn't the most family-friendly restaurant. I came a little bit later. My family moved into this area in 1996. So they were still around, still cooking steaks. It wasn't as vibrant as before, but it was still kind of this old Western saloon with different characters at the bar. They didn't love having children, so oftentimes my parents would kind of hide me behind them and tuck me into the booth so they wouldn't know I was there.
That's funny. Mm-hmm. And then this building that we're in now, Cornell Wine Company, it has its own history.
This entire piece of property here, the Old Place, this spot, and right next door is owned still by the Runyon family. Mm-hmm. It was zoned commercially, and for Tom Runyon to keep the zoning, he was kind of forced to build something. No one really knows why he built this exact building. It's beautiful. It looks like it might be a church. There's a cupola. But he didn't use it for anything. He just used it for storage, dirt floors, nothing until I think 2006 is when it finally made its transformation.
Okay, and then was it a wine store in the beginning?
Yeah, so a gentleman by the name of Tim Skogstrom, he came to Tom. He kind of wanted to rejuvenate the Old Place and convert this into a tasting room that could promote the wines of the Malibu Coast. It was kind of an up-and-coming region at the time, and Tom bought into it. Even though he had previously said no to every other plan that had ever come through here, Tim was able to get him with the idea of a wine tasting room.
And then when did you decide that you wanted to get into the wine business?
That's a little bit of a tricky question. It's been, I guess, a long process. We had spoken earlier. We both went to UC Davis, and so that has the best enology program in the country. I did not study winemaking there, but that was kind of my introduction. I took Viticulture 101 on my 21st birthday. Me and some friends that were in the enology program went up to Napa, and that kind of got me interested. I really fell in love with wine and kind of the everything about it. I love the science kind of interwoven with the art of it and the history of wine. It just kind of has always spoken to me. It's always piqued my interest. I've never lost interest in wine. I'm very passionate about it.
Interesting. And then when did you come to acquire the business?
About a couple years ago. So Tim, as I mentioned before, he had ran the business for over 15 years, and he was kind of looking for a way to transition out. And initially, he hired me to kind of manage for him before we transitioned ownership, and I took over, and he stepped aside. And yeah, I've been doing that for about 2 years now.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Southern California wines in particular,
absolutely.
because that's where we are.
Yeah.
I read on your site that you have what they call story-driven wines.
Yeah.
Are you approached by winemakers? Are you out sleuthing and finding
So,
wines to bring into the store?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both. We definitely have different sales reps, winemakers. People come in periodically during the week to taste us on different things. We also go out right now. Our lead sommelier, Jason Koniski, is out at a barrel tasting in Santa Ynez.
Fun job.
It's fun. There's some perks to it. But yeah, we do love our local Southern California, LA, Malibu wines, but our main thing is we like to introduce wines to people, and we do that by talking about them. And so we will have different producers come in, they'll tell us about the wine, we'll taste it, and if we think that we can turn around and get some people interested, we will sell it. We do our best to try to get wines that you haven't tried before, small production stuff, with a story behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there are some little gems around. I mean, there are people that are growing here locally.
I am very passionate about this region. The Malibu Coast AVA is the American Viticultural Association, and it's a designated region here in Malibu. When I kind of first got involved with this area, before I even came to start working here, but when I started learning more about Malibu wines, there was a lot of excitement. I would say it was probably about 10 years ago. It's a really fascinating region with different microclimates and really some fantastic wines. Unfortunately, there's been a little bit of like a roadblock in 2020. The LA Board of Supervisors kind of put a halt on any new vineyards in Malibu. It's kind of unclear why. I think a lot of it has to do with it's so beautiful out here. People are worried of it turning into like a big touristy area. But it could never be like Napa or Sonoma.
Right.
And I think it's a shame that we don't share it.
Sure.
Even with this halt on new vineyards, even if it's on your own property, you can't put a new vineyard. The Woolsey fire some years ago, some people lost vineyards. They're not able to replant on the same plot of land, and they're also not allowed to plant right next to themselves on their own property.
Interesting.
So we've hopefully turned a corner on that. We're working with the supervisors to try to change that. I think it's a really underrated region. You have wines that are really approachable to drink immediately, but also have some really cool aging potential. I think some of the Cabernets, Merlots, bigger Bordeaux varietals tend to do really well with about 10 to 15 years on them, which is something people won't find out unless we can kind of re-energize the region.
Right.
Yeah.
Does the popularity of different wines kind of ebb and flow, like it's like Chardonnay time, and then all of a
Absolutely.
sudden people switch to Cab, or they just kind
Well,
of like...
seasonally, absolutely. I think I sold so much Cabernet last week because, we're in February. It's a little bit colder. In the summer, I saw a lot of rosé. Wine is definitely a business that it's what's in vogue. So what's trending at the time, you'll see different waves of things, whether it was a heavy rosé wave we had 10 years ago, or it was a big Malbec wave. Right now in Los Angeles and other kind of more urban areas, you'll see the natural wine wave, which is mostly a marketing term, but it's people now want less intervention, so they don't want pesticides and herbicides or sulfites. You'll see different styles of wines like skin contact whites or orange wines or chilled reds. wine is kind of always changing like that. We think of wine as this really historic, old thing that people have been drinking for thousands of years, and it is. But the wine we drink is completely unrecognizable to what was drank 300, 400 years ago. So you kind of always have to be on top of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. There's so much to, I mean, as a layperson, you know, I mean, I have to admit that sometimes I'm guilty just because I like the art on the bottle.
Yeah,
You know?
that's the best way to sell a bottle is good packaging. I think here we're in a good place where we can actually pour tastings for people, so people can have a little sip of something, try it before they buy it, and they're not as dependent on the label. Labels are really important, but they're also very difficult to read, particularly. I mean, the United States doesn't have too many regulations on what they can say on labels, but usually it'll say what kind of grape it is and where it's from. If you're looking at something from somewhere in Europe, it might be a little more complicated. Oftentimes they don't have the grapes because the region that it's from dictates what the grapes are. So you kind of have to have this knowledge of wine
Right.
to be able to kind of pick those out accurately or to find what you want, which is unfortunate.
So, like, Champagne is only from the Champagne region, right?
Something like
France?
that, yeah. And Champagne can only be 3 different grapes when you're making it. It can be Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Pinot Meunier. And so different things on the label will dictate what it is, but it won't just say it flat out,
Right.
which is unfortunate because I think something we try to do here is make wine a little more approachable because it is a very kind of hoity-toity, standoffish kind of
Right.
elitist thing, but it's just booze. It's
Right.
it's for a good time.
It's just really good grape juice.
Yeah, exactly.
And you are doing tastings, as you mentioned, and then also pairings.
Yeah, so we are starting to do some wine dinners. Wine pairing is something I've always loved doing. It's kind of that area of maybe art, a little science. There are definitely certain things, work with other things. Our first wine dinner, which we're doing this upcoming month, is actually Greek food and Greek wine. It kind of goes with the theme of introducing new things to people. We don't see a lot of Greek wine out here. You might see an Assertico at a Greek restaurant, but I've been tasting just fantastic different wines from different regions of Greece, and I love introducing those to people. And then to also work with a chef is really fun to try to pair those wines to get the perfect match.
So describe that a little bit more. I mean, how do you do that? Do you pick the menu and then the wine, or the wine? I really like this wine, and let's figure out the food later.
Yeah, we did some drinking and some eating all together. Yeah, we kind of the chef and I met, and I think we could do it differently, but I had some wines that I was really passionate about. So we kind of started with those as a base and then tried to figure out what kind of dishes would work best with them. We narrowed some of the wines down. We started with like 10, we broke it down to 6, and then we ended up pairing each thing with each wine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, these are wines that are imported from Greece?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
And then is it going to be lamb and
There's
olives and
all
traditional
sorts
Greek?
of dishes. Lamb is definitely one of the things we're doing.
So folks will get to have like a flight of wine?
Yeah, so it's a 6-course menu, and each course will come with a paired wine. Yeah.
And then you also have music nights here.
We love our music nights. We are lucky enough to have some really gifted musicians and performers that frequent the area. And every Friday we have a different musician coming in and playing for us, and it's really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then you also do a mic night or
Yeah,
open mic night?
once a month we do open mic so anyone can come and perform. And then we also do a stand-up comedy night once a month. Yeah.
So what wines do come out of the Malibu Coast?
You'll see a variety of different wines. There's kind of 3 different microclimates. If you go closer to the coast, it's much cooler. So you'll get the cooler climate grapes like Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. That is some of the most expensive real estate in the world. So there's not a lot of it's filled up with vines. So you don't see too much the Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. When you do see them, though, they tend to be fantastic. Moving in, you'll start seeing more Bordeaux varietals. So grapes that originated in the Bordeaux region of France, like Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Malbec. And then you keep moving even further in, and you'll start seeing more warmer climate grapes. So you see a lot of Syrah, Sangiovese, Chianti, or excuse me, Sangiovese is Chianti. What other grapes are we seeing in there? Grenache a little bit. Yeah, so it's kind of these 3 different microclimates that make really distinct wines. LA actually, before Prohibition, was the center of wine growing in California.
Really?
Yeah, everyone kind of had their own backyard vineyard. There was also a lot of wine that was being sold. And Prohibition kind of coincided with the urbanization of Los Angeles. So by the time Prohibition was over, everything was kind of paved already. Also, LA hasn't allowed, or they've only allowed 1 new winemaking permit since Prohibition. So anyone that grows in LA County actually has to leave LA County to make the wine.
Oh, so you take your grapes and then you process them somewhere else.
Exactly. So like there's 40 to 50 growers out here in Malibu. No one's making it in LA. Most people go to Ventura County or Santa Barbara. Some people go all the way up to Napa. Some people go to Temecula. The only people that have winemaking permits are San Antonio Winery, which theirs predates Prohibition. They made Sacramento. Gallo as well, which is the biggest wine producer in the world. And then Moraga, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch. Just like money it'll get you the only winemaking permit.
Right.
But really cool property, excellent wine coming out of there.
Now you still have the Malibu label, even though you took the wine to be processed somewhere else.
Yeah. So the region that your wine, or that is listed on your wine, is where the grapes are grown. So it'll be Malibu Coast AVA, which I keep saying that is a region that kind of extends. If you're familiar with this area, it's from the 101 freeway all the way to the coast, from about Calabasas up to Westlake Boulevard. So it's a pretty big region, 40 to 50 growers. Like I said, everyone's taking it.
You don't realize that.
There's not a lot of people that are selling their wine. There used to be more. A lot of them, it's private label, drink themselves, give to their friends. But yeah, there's a bunch of vineyards kind of scattered around, and even other parts of LA as well. There's some really cool winemakers like Mark Blatty and Abe Schoner that are going out finding these little old vineyards scattered around LA and making pretty cool wine with it.
I guess for the novice, how would the novice who, wants to learn more about wine, how would they learn about, good wine versus bad wine? I mean, I know there's like, $2 Chuck, but
I think the best way to go about that is to go to a smaller local wine shop where they can kind of, it's not so much good versus bad, it's kind of what you enjoy. And everyone enjoys different things. It doesn't make something good or bad, but a smaller shop will help find some good quality stuff, let you know how much of it's being made, what kind of grape it is, and they can help pair to your likings and your palate. That I always recommend is the best way. We do a really good job of it here. We have really good staff that enjoy talking to people. It's kind of like a game to try to figure out the perfect wine for somebody. I know that's my favorite thing to do, is pick out a wine for somebody.
And I would imagine people come in and they're hosting their own dinner, and they want some help, as the pairing expert. You can help them pick out the right.
Yeah, I love pairing for dinner, and I love finding wines that people will enjoy. It's really a fun thing for us here.
So you've got a wide range of people working here.
Yeah, we have a really cool community, I think. Not only just the people that work here, but the people that work at the old place next door, and the people that have worked there in the past. Everyone kind of is this big family. A lot of them very, very local, which is very convenient for me. I can call up Holly, who lives down the street, or Megan, who's just up Canaan, and they can come help out, and everyone's really eager to do it. We definitely enjoy our time here. I love spending time here, obviously, but I think everyone really enjoys their work here, and we do feel really close, especially with the guys next door, the wait staff, the kitchen. We're all one big family. We do our holiday party together, and we're always looking out for each other. We're about as friendly as you could possibly be. I worked there. Also, I pretty much had every single job at the old place, from washing dishes to managing the bar. It's just it's a part of me. It's like a family member. I love that restaurant so much.
That's awesome.
And yeah, I love the people who work there and people who work here. We're all one big family.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you've got other items here besides wine.
Yeah, so that kind of is another extension of the community. We are also a gift shop. We sell different artisan goods from different local vendors. We have a local ceramicist, local photographers, local artists that sell their wares here. And yeah, it's another extension of our community.
And you did a clothing drive after the fires.
Yeah, the fires definitely impacted us as they do every year. This one was bad just because it was an extension of our community, the Palisades in Topanga, that's right next door. That's a lot of our clientele, our people. And so started by Sierra Drummond, who runs most of our music program here. We did a clothing donation drive for people that lost their homes, lost everything, also for first responders. And it was just a really great experience to be able to help in any way we could.
Right.
But also to see the community come together to try to donate their time and effort to help out. It was really special.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, people don't know where to turn in a time of darkness, and there's somebody doing a good deed, if it's small as it is.
Yeah. We do what we can.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're not too far from Mulholland Highway. It's right around the corner.
That's the street we're on, actually. And it's really kind of creates a unique setting for us. There's not a lot of businesses out here. There's us, the old place, and then the famous Rock Store down the street. And the Rock Store is a very famous biker hangout. And we've kind of got our own reputation now as well. Not as much as a biker hangout, but we have some cool car clubs that come through. So we have a really interesting crowd that comes there. And on the weekend, you'll see some amazing cars and bikes and all sorts.
Cool.
Yeah.
And there's like an abandoned swimming pool across the street from back in the heyday.
Yeah. So across the street is Peter Strauss Park. It was formerly known as Lake Enchanto, which was an amusement park. Had one time the largest pool west of the Mississippi, I think. That sounds silly, but I think that's what it was. And there was different rides there. There's an aviary. It's actually the story where our peacocks, we have wild peacocks here.
I did see some outside.
They came from across the street in the 60s when the park closed down. They just kind of let the birds out, and the peacocks have been here ever since. Neighbors kind of helped take care of them. But
so we're talking 65 years. The birds have just been wandering
around. They've been here
around
for a while, yeah.
And I heard some donkeys in the background.
Yeah, those are our neighbors' donkeys. We got a lot of fun wildlife up here. It's definitely kind of living in the country, at least for LA. It's about as country as it gets. There's donkeys.
Country light.
Country light, yeah.
Yeah, you're not too far from Starbucks.
Not too far, you know.
But you feel like you're a world away.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. There's also a lake not too far from here.
Yeah, it's a residential lake, Malibu Lake. It's just about a mile down the road. A lot of cool old history. They've shot a lot of films there, including the original Frankenstein, The Great Dictator, a couple other things that I'm forgetting.
They had a big cat animal sanctuary where I guess the trainer would have animals for different movies back in the day.
Yeah, there's a lot of different films that were shot here and a lot of studios out here. Paramount Ranch that's what I referred to just now, Paramount Ranch. That was owned by Paramount, and it was old Western lot and set. That was just around the corner. And then also the old place was used for a number of different TV shows and movies.
So what does a typical month look like, schedule-wise?
So we will have live music every single Friday. We'll have open mic on the last Sunday of every month, and we also have comedy one of the Saturdays every month, and we have a singer-songwriter night on one of the Saturdays as well.
Very cool.
Very full schedule. Every weekend we'll probably have something going on.
Well, Matt Morris, thank you so much for being our guest on this On the Road. We've loved having you and learning about you and Cornell Wine Company.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Be sure to tune in next time for On the Road.